Rosalinda Roman, and I'm here with my friend Ash Vyas, and this is Friends and Authors Live, our weekly live show that shares our tips and tricks and adventures of being indie authors. And we also share our tips and tricks and adventures of being traveling people. So that's why we're a little bit late today. I'm actually in Nashville. It's my son's spring break, and it's a little chaotic when you're trying to do a live show and deal with a teenager. He's awesome, but he was in the room, and I was like, "Get out, get out!" So finally, I'm like kicking him out. So we're a little late. My apologies to everyone. If you are here live, welcome. If you are here live, put a note in the comments because we can see you in the studio. So, all of that said, let me say hello. Hi, Ash. How are you?
Hello, Rosalinda. Hope Nashville's treating you well.
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting adventure because I realized we learned the hard way from day one that most of where we are, we're down by Broadway, not kid friendly for the evenings. So we went to go take him out to dinner, and we went like at 6:20, and they're like, "Oh no, nobody under the age of 21 is allowed anywhere on this whole strip until after 6 o'clock." So we had to figure that out, but we figured it out, and it's been kind of a whirlwind month because for those of you that are new here, Ash and I were in Ireland. I mean, it was like what 5 days ago for me that I was in Ireland, and now here we are. Yeah, actually, the last show we did, I was in a hotel in Ireland, and now I'm at a hotel in Nashville. So, so what shall we talk about today?
I don't know. I guess I can let you pick the topic since you've been traveling so much.
Yeah, so we've been discussing, and one of the things we talked about in passing was, and I saw a post on your author page that you are actually in libraries now. And that's a really big deal for indie authors, especially those of us that are in Amazon in KDP, because in the past, Amazon has not allowed us to be anywhere but like had to be completely exclusive to Amazon. But just within the last few weeks, I think it is, they changed the policy, and we are now allowed to put our books in libraries. So, first of all, you're in libraries now, right?
Yeah, yeah. As of this month, they changed the policy, I think, towards the latter half of last year, but it took a while to get things sorted out, and there's different ways you can do it. But basically, just as you said, if you're in Kindle Unlimited, you're contractually obligated for 90-day periods to only sell your ebooks on Amazon and nowhere else. You get some benefits for that, but that is the restriction. They have since changed that policy and allowed authors who are still within, the 90 days of a Kindle Unlimited contract to place their books with libraries.
Yeah, which is so cool. And so you actually went about it pretty quickly, and how many? First of all, you have like 15 books, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
I have, I have, I
put them
have
all in the libraries.
13, and well, if you count box sets, it'll be 16 in the library and already in the libraries.
So how was that process for you?
It was actually pretty easy. I mean, there are different ways to do it. Um, there really aren't any restrictions except for the fact that you have to be very careful that you only, if you're in KU, your books only go to libraries and not to any other competitors like Amazon or Kobo or what have you of Amazon. I think I said Amazon. I meant Apple or Kobo or something like that, right? So the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, I mean, you could just go direct to the libraries or the systems that service libraries. You're free to do that, but then there's a lot of those different platforms, and there's obviously a lot of libraries in the world. So the easiest way to do it is to go to a platform, I think, like Draft to Digital. Their layout is very easy, and you just basically upload your books in EPUB format, I think is probably easiest. And you click on, the library channels that you want your books. You set the price. You can actually set the price higher than you sell an ebook on Amazon. They recommend you do that because the way they pay you for your books, sometimes they will buy the book, in which case, you're not getting any more royalties on that, so they'll pay a higher price, or they'll pay you a fraction of the book price every time it's checked out. It kind of depends on the library, but either way, they recommend that you charge, 2 to 3 times at least as minimum of what you sell your books for, your ebooks for on Amazon. And then the only last thing, and this is the thing you absolutely have to do, is make sure of all the channels that Drafted Digital is distributing your ebooks to, it's only going to libraries and it's not going to Apple or Kobo or any of the competitors. Otherwise, then you're going to have problems with Amazon, right? So, but it's very simple. The format, the layout, and the way Drafted Digital set everything up, it's pretty seamless. So, I got all of mine into libraries in about 2 or 3 days.
That's amazing. So, and I actually asked you before the show, and by that I mean it was last minute, and I was like, okay, what are we talking about? And I really wanted to kind of go through the steps, so you kindly wrote out a list of how we do that, and I actually started. I have some bullet points slides that I'm going to pull up just to kind of walk people through. I actually also recorded trying to do it myself, and it was kind of interesting because I did get stuck. And I realized once I kind of started going through the draft to digital steps, um, I remembered why I hadn't done it because it's not complicated, I don't think, but it just does take some sitting down and getting it done, which I think a lot of things in indie author life is sit down, focus, get the book written, sit down, focus, get the, covers finished, sit down, focus, do the blurb, sit down, focus. And because I travel so much, sometimes sit down, focus is a luxury I don't have. So I thought, if you don't mind, we'll walk through some of the steps that you
Yeah, yeah, sure.
shared with me. So the first thing that we do is creating the draft to digital account. That's the very first thing. And again, there are other ways to do it. I think Ingram Spark is one of them, another option, right?
Yeah, they are, but um, I I think Ingram Spark is more of a paperback distributor. I
Okay.
think from everything that I'd read, there are different ways you can do it. I don't think there's any restrictions other than you can't, but you just have to make sure it doesn't go to any other competitors of Amazon.
Okay.
But I think Draft to Digital is probably the easiest way because you can hit them all at once,
Right.
all the
And
library
also, from an
platforms.
indie perspective, they're always at the indie conferences. They're very supportive of indie authors, right? So, like, you do get support through Draft to Digital, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, and it's also a function of time. Like I prefer to have, you know, outside of Amazon, as few possible platforms as I have to navigate and keep track of to give me, more time just to write books, right?
Hmm.
As opposed to some of these other business aspects.
All right, so we go through, we create the Draft to Digital account, then we log into the account, and submit banking and tax information. So I actually, and then the next step, the reason I did this way is because I'll show you where I got stuck. So then you click the orange My Books button, and then the fifth step is to select the book you want distributed to the Draft to Digital Library partners, and then click the blue ebook tab. So I actually started going through this just before the show. And let's see. So you see, this is Draft to Digital, and here I'm logging in with I had already had an account. I tried this before, and like I said, I got stuck. I had to prove that I'm not a robot, which nowadays is harder and harder to do. And then I logged into the account, right? So you can see here, no books can be published until you provide your payment information. So you click on that. That's the third step that you showed. And you basically are going to put your payment information in this form, which I'm not going to do that right now. But yes, you have to do that because otherwise, like, how do you get paid? Yeah, and you know what? Let me pause this for a second. So, what is the like? What's the process? You, they pay you. How does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah. There's no fee for it. It's just how you get paid, and I think they want your tax number as well, right? It's very similar to if you when you set up your KDP account. But basically, this is for you. This is how you get paid, and you also there's also a tab that where you determine like how frequently you're paid out. Are you paid out every $10, every $20, every $100 of sales, right? And they'll wire the money with that frequency, right? So that's something you have to figure out.
Interesting. Before I go any further, Barbara Tomlin says there's a major echo on the guest's voice. He's actually my co host, but yes, there is more than one audio source coming through his feed. I don't hear that on my end, which is interesting. Barb, let me know if that's continuing or if it was just because there was a moment where I was actually checking it on Substack and it may have had feedback that way. So please let me know if that's still going on, or maybe you've tuned out because it's echoing and driving you crazy. But hopefully you're still here, and you can let us know in the comments if it is still echoing. I'm going to continue. The payment information was the next step. I'll put that in at some point. But you click this My Books, and then you're going to add a new book. I had already added this next book, Death Wounds, which is the first book in my mystery thriller series. And once you do that, you click on it, and
It,
you're
it
going to
might
go
not
to,
let you, yeah, it
right.
might not let you
So
go through the entire process
it
until it
doesn't.
has
That's
your payment
exactly my,
information.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually my point. I then clicked here, but nothing else will happen because, as you said, and you can explain why, but basically I have to fill out this information, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It won't let you upload your books until it has the payment information. But then at that point, you just click on the orange tab and just kind of follow the prompts, and it'll let you pick which platforms you want to distribute the books. And I think it took about 24 hours for them to verify my payment details as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, so that's where I got stopped, and then the next steps. Let's just assume I handle the tax information and I handle getting the details in there. Then the next thing that you talked about is for a newly uploaded ebook, you're going to need to complete the details, which you just said, layout and preview steps before moving on to the publish step. So my audio, okay, sorry, Barb just updated me. My audio is fine. It's Ash's voice. So, Ash, I'm going to take you off the stage and just see if that corrects it at all. Let's see, edit mic settings. I'm going to try to take the echo cancellation and reduce background. All right, now can you talk a little bit,
Yeah,
Ash?
sure. How's that?
I don't know. Yeah, she said he may have an external mic, and yet your operating system may be picking up the audio separately. She is, by the way, Barbara is one of my mentors in the live streaming space. So if anyone needs live streaming advice, definitely turn to Barb because she's amazing. Yeah, we'll see as he keeps talking, still echoing. Okay, I'm going to take you off stage and just see if you can check if what your audio source is. Or within the StreamYard app, you can go down to settings and have it do a mic check. And I'll just keep kind of walking through his advice here while you troubleshoot for a second, and then I'll bring you right back on. Okay. Thank you very much, by the way, Barb. She did say that it was still echoing. So we're going to have Ash check that out while I just kind of keep going with his steps that he shared with me about getting the book in the library. So before moving on to the publish step, you had to do all those things where you'll select where you want your ebook distributed. If the ebook you want distributed to library services is already in draft to digital system, you can skip directly to the publish step. So that's where I'm stuck, that I have not gone I haven't actually put all of the data into my draft to digital, so I can't yet do this process, but I'm going to try. So anything, since you're back and we can test your mic, anything you want to say about that part of the steps?
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
Oh, just talking about how you need to have all that data in there. It says if the ebook you want to want distributed to library services is already in their system, then you can skip directly to the publish step. So basically, what you're saying is start with, get your account set up, get your book set up within the draft to digital.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's pretty seamless to upload your books at that point.
Okay. All right. So let's assume it's in there. I'll assume Barbara's going to tell us if Asha's. Were you able to find any settings that you were able to
There
change?
was an echo cancellation tab to either turn on or off.
Okay.
I have it turned on.
Yeah, that should help, but it may be that they're. See, I don't hear that, so it's really, I don't know why. But this is how it's been today. This week, it's been an interesting. Here, let's see if I have.
Okay, well here I have it off.
Well, hopefully that helped. Okay, and then the next step. Let's go on. So on the publish step, you have the option to opt in or opt out of ebook distribution to digital stores, subscription services, and library services. You can also set your prices during this step. If you have an ebook enrolled in KDP Select and you want to have it distributed to library services, you will have to deselect distribution to digital stores and subscription services. So this is kind of what you were talking about earlier, right?
Exactly. You want to deselect everything but the libraries.
Interesting. Okay. And the reason for that is if your book shows up somewhere else, Amazon might punish you, right? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. If you do that, you're in violation of, if one of your books is selling on Kobo or Apple Books while you're in KDP during your 90 days, well, then you're absolutely violating the agreement.
Right, right. Well, and I'm very glad that we have the option to do the libraries at all, and I want to keep talking about that, but we're still apparently having technical issues. It's been that way lately. Let me fix this so we can see your face. Okay, Barb says, echo occurs when there's streaming devices picking up sound from another nearby device, creating a feedback loop. She says to resolve it, ensure the device isn't near any other devices playing the live stream. You don't have like Substack open or something on another device, do you?
No, this is the same setup
Yeah, and it
we
sounds totally fine to me, so I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, we've been having some interesting The last episode we recorded, my audio was so blown out that I couldn't. We couldn't really use it. I was trying to edit it to make it better. Well, we appreciate the feedback. I think we can just keep going, and hopefully get it resolved before next episode. And thank you, Barb, for bringing it to our attention. Anyway, so I wanted to just talk about in the libraries okay, so great. I go through all this and get my books put in the library, but then what? Then what do you do? Just because it's in the library doesn't mean all of a sudden it's actually in your local library, right?
Yeah, I mean that's an entirely new question in terms of exactly how you go about marketing to the libraries. Since my books just recently got in, the only thing I've done is for my Facebook group and my newsletter, I told folks, look, the books are available.
I think the problem is actually mine. I just realized I'm hearing you through, I don't have my headphones on. So my apologies, Barb. That's actually my bad. So give me a second. I was like, why? It sounds fine to me. Well, that's the problem. It's coming through my computer, playing in my microphone at the same time. And I bet this. Give it a shot. Can we hear you now?
Yeah, how's that? Is that any better?
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. You all, I am actually a professional at this, but the last two episodes I have just been off the rails. I never thought I would say this, but I think there is such a thing as too much traveling. That's solved, isn't it, Barb? Yeah. Yes, she says. Oh my gosh, my apologies. So that's two episodes in a row that I have destroyed the audio for.
Well, when you work with super Lois Lane lady, it's good to know that she's still human from time to time, right? So
You're too kind. You're too kind. All right, can we go back for a second? Because I would
yeah,
like to have at least a little usable sound now that we've got that sorted. Ash, so we kind of talked through like how do you get your book um, in the libraries, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody, who goes to their local library is going to find your book, right?
yeah. There's a couple things, and you can guess who I talked to about this who'd already thought it through at the conference. Uh,
I'm
you
guessing
know,
Steve
Steve,
Higgs.
yeah. So there were a couple librarians at the conference, and I was actually sitting next to one at dinner, uh, and she told me that there's a couple publications that librarians all get, at least in the States. And so, Steve was thinking of perhaps like running uh, an ad, uh, for his books and that sort of thing there. Um, I'm I've I'm at baby steps at this point. Since my books just got in the libraries, the only thing I've done is let people know on my Facebook page and my email group that hey, the books in the libraries. If they're not in your library, just talk to your librarian and maybe they'll order them for you. Um, but I think it's an entirely different marketing channel, and I think Draft to Digital may have some contingencies there, but it's still in the early stages for me as far as marketing to libraries.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of this because it's kind of grassroots. And one of the things that I've noticed, I have my friends and family social space where I communicate with, my mom and my siblings and cousins and stuff like that. And they've always wanted to be supportive, but I've learned in the process of publishing 5 books, almost 6, that they're not necessarily my target reader all the time, right? Like there are a handful who are amazing and readers within my genre, but they're not my primary person that I should be marketing to. However, they want to be supportive, right? There's a lot of people within your core group of friends and family that want to do something, and they're not going to necessarily read your book. I mean, I have friends who write horror, and they have, their mom reads like cozy romance. So they're not necessarily wanting to read your book, but they want to support you and what you're doing. And so I really love this grassroots feeling that if you get your book in the local library, each person that knows and loves you can go down to the local library and say, "Hey, I noticed you don't have this wonderful book by this awesome author, A.K. Vias or Rosalinda Roman, can you please look into getting it?" And all of a sudden, you're giving friends and family a free way to support you, right?
Yeah, I think that's the case, and also, I know as a kid I spent a ton of time in the library, and um, a lot of the feedback I get from some of my readers, a lot of them, some of them are older, so, some of them are on fixed incomes or retired, and the library is a big part of how they get their reading done, right? So I'm happy that the books are available to them.
That's awesome, and it makes me think of my daughter Ziva, who every time she meets someone and gets to know them, one of the first things she asks is, "Would it be possible for me to borrow your library card?" because we live in small towns, and the library in small towns sometimes is not as robust as libraries in big cities. So if she like my family's in Chicago and Miami, so she will basically be like, "Hey, can I check out some books under your account, Grammy?" So yeah, the library is a big part of my kids' lives for sure, and I love the thought that people who want to read, it's kind of like KDP. If you're reading ebooks online, um, you can pay for the subscription, but then you can read our books for free. Both of us have our books in KDP. So it's kind of the same idea, and I like a physical book. So for me, I love the thought that you can actually, is it just ebooks or not?
No, you could I mean, well, the physical books are not in KDP, right? So they're not.
Right.
There's no limitation there, right? I don't know of um, kind of a consolidated platform to do the physical books
Mm-hmm.
like Draft to Digital's doing the ebooks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's you could take your barrel of or your bushel of books, cart around from library to library. You do travel a lot, right?
Yeah.
You could stop off at each
I've
library.
often
Library.
thought when I when I was living on boats, I often thought because every marina has a little place that you can do a book swap, kind of like these
Yeah.
little free libraries. And I've often thought maybe I should carry books and just put some of my books in there with some bookmarks, and that way, and say, with a note that says, "Hi, I'm a fellow cruiser. Could you?" If you like this book, pass it on, and if you really like it, pass on some bookmarks.
Well, I don't, do you recall what Tom Donnelly told us in at the conference in Ireland about
I don't
leaving
remember which one.
books? So he is a Hollywood screenwriter, I believe, and he gave a wonderful
Yeah.
presentation on how to try to get your book made into a movie. It's apparently a very competitive industry there, and he said one of the craziest stories that actually worked was somebody kind of figured out like which high end resorts across the world that these Hollywood big shot producers go to, and just left copies of his or her book, you know, by the pool on the shelf at these places. And after a couple of years, one actually hit. Like some Hollywood producer grabbed the book, was there on vacation, read it, and contacted the author.
I
Right.
love it. I
So
love it.
I suppose that's one way to do it.
That's about as indie, like grassroots as you get. And I just love the idea that it's a big puzzle, and we have to figure out like how. I just had a friend ask me a few days ago. He's like, "Oh, there's always when you see people from your life that you've known for a long time that didn't know you as an author, and then they find out, oh, you're writing books. Oh, that's so nice, and they don't know, are you a good author? Are you like what kind of books are you making?" And this friend who I've known for 30 years was like, "Oh, so how do people find your books?" And I'm like, "That is the $1 million question. He said, it seems like there's thousands and thousands of books. I just read a stat and I forgot exactly, but the number of books that are being published each year on Amazon is astounding. I don't know if you know. Do you have any idea what
No,
the
I
number
don't
is?
know how many books exactly, but I think a lot of indie authors kind of go through some form of that conversation. I mean, I have a really dear friend in San Francisco, and he, after I published the first couple of books, he called me, and he was very supportive, through the entire process. It was more of a hobby than a potential profession, and he said, I was so relieved. And I said, What do you mean?" He's like you're an author. Like you're an author. Like your books are actually really good. Like I would buy them in a store." And I was like, as opposed to, he was like, "Well, I was scared they'd just really suck. I mean, you're like one of my best friends, so I couldn't tell you that. But I mean, like they're real books." I was
Right.
like,
Well,
I think
something
I think I've been complimented.
that is a compliment. Well, I had something similar because my one of my best friends, she had been like a beta reader for another friend, and this is before I published the mystery thriller series. So she was talking one night over cards. We were playing our favorite card game, Hand and Foot, and we're playing cards, and she was mentioning, "Oh yeah, I've already been a beta reader for another friend." I said, "Oh yeah, so how'd that go?" She goes, "Well, his books were so bad, and so I had to tell him, and I had to get on there, and she was
Excuse me.
offended by how bad they were, and that she felt compelled to actually have to like call him out on it." And I think it probably ruined their friendship. I'm not sure, but I was so nervous after, I knew my books were about to come out, and she was telling me this story, and I thought maybe I shouldn't ask her to read my books. And I was very relieved. She's read them on purpose, and she enjoys them. So, again, it feels like a compliment to me as well. Oh, well, that's the life of indie authorship, right? Like you're putting your heart and soul into this book, and then you're putting it out there, and there's this weird like dynamic because you want people to read it, but you're also like, do I want people to read it? Yes, you do. And then how do you get them to find you? And that's again the $1 million question. How do you get the people who will love your books to find your books? And I think that's mostly what our show is about, and what these conferences that we go to, the Ireland Publishing Show, which is now it's called Indie Network in Ireland. And by the way, they just sold out next year's conference. The conference that you and I just went to in Ireland, not even 2 weeks from when it ended, they already sold out next year.
Yeah. I know that. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I was surprised it happened that fast, but in hindsight, probably not because it was a great conference. It was very much in the spirit of the old the small regional 20 books conferences in Amsterdam and Seville, the perfect size. And, they had great presentations. So it shouldn't be a surprise at all.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that there's like a WhatsApp group where people that went to the conference are still having conversations. And all of a sudden, when they announced that it was sold out, they're like, awesome, the next one should be in the autumn in Belgium. And how about Indie Network's, conference in somewhere else in Scotland? Um, and so I love that thought that we can maybe get the smaller venues, smaller places like that, get-togethers, because it really does. You learn a lot of the things that we're talking about here on the show are the very things you talk about in the hallways with other authors and in some of the sessions. So I will continue going to the different
Yeah, I would
conferences.
too. And I think that's what I would recommend to folks early, in their journey is who want to become independent authors and professional authors is there's so many different ways to do it. And I fully realize people's situations can be different and it is expensive to go to one of these conferences, but when you get there, you're actually learning from the pros, right? You're actually learning from people who do this for a living, who are very sharing of their information and their time and their presentations. And it really takes the guesswork out of all of it. Like you learn like this is one, these are different ways to market, these are different ways to craft ideas to create a better book, these are different ways to do all the different things you have to do to run um, you know an entrepreneurial indie author business, right? And you actually learn from real people who are doing it, right?
That's
So
awesome.
I
That's
highly
great.
recommend it.
Yep. And I highly recommend you keep coming back and watching our show every week, Tuesday, 1 o'clock Mountain Time, which right now it's 2 o'clock in Central where I am, and 9 o'clock in Germany, right? Because you guys just went through the time change.
Yeah, we just got to daylight savings time.
Okay, awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you all next week. I will be back home in New Mexico, which will be great because I won't have to kick a kid out of the room or deal with hotel Wi Fi. All right. Anything else you want to add before we go, Ash?
No, I think we're good.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your journey on the libraries. I can't wait to see how that all goes. And we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.